Hi and welcome back to the channel, and in this episode we're going to try and get some more work done on the forest weapon. It has been some time since we got a video out on this car, several months, and that's because probably for several months we really haven't got a lot of work done on this thing at all. It's been sitting in the corner under a cover. We really have to get cracking with this thing. It's now nearly at the end of 2024. This build's been on the go for quite some time and we're just edging very slowly towards getting it finished. We've got to get it done now because we have entered the car in a rally for next season already, so that is our incentive to get it finished, and we're onto it. On top of that as well, had a bit of a drama, did film a whole bunch of stuff that we have done on the car along the way, and the hard drive that was saved on has died. So would have had a video out a bit sooner, however that footage is gone, so anyway we'll cover some of that ground. Anyway, we've got to get going with this car, so let's get into it and see where we're up to. This very ordinary piece of aluminium is actually going to have this gadget on it, which is an ordinary looking tank. It's just going to be mounted in this space here. We're actually in the boot at the moment, and that is going to form part of our intercooler water sprayer setup. In the meantime, Damien is busily marking out all the holes ready for drilling to mount up our plate. Now, because the intercooler water sprayer tank is going to have, I think, about 7 litres of water in it, give or take, we have used 3mm thick aluminium just to make sure that that's going to be strong enough. We probably could have used a little bit thinner, but we know that there won't be an issue then with mounting that, and also the scrutineers having a drama that it's not strong enough for purpose, so that'll all work out fine. It's mounted in there now, so we can finish off the plumbing to it now and the wiring. In the meantime, we are obviously fitting up the seat rails at the moment and getting the seating position correct so that we're sitting in the right place. It takes a bit of time to get that sort of stuff sorted out. Finishing touches on our buttons, and all nice and neatly all tied up with a wiring loom now, so that's another job checked off the list. Inside the car we've got our button panel sorted out, as you've seen already, and we've also been working on getting all the wiring tidied up now and the convoluted tubes all onto everything. It's not very exciting to watch, so we didn't film any of that sort of stuff. But as you can see, it looks a lot neater now than it did before. Still not 100% happy with the way the wiring's run, and that's to do with because it's a mix of our own custom wiring loom and also the factory loom. So there's a bit of length extra in a few places, so I've just had to coil it up. It's neat enough, and there's no problem with that. However, you know, if we were doing a custom loom, it would be exactly the right length. Here it still looks like a ball of spaghetti, and it's going to remain like this. We're not going to cover all this up the convoluted tube because A, it's well protected in here, so there's no drama with damage to it, and also for some reason we do need to get at any of this wiring, then it's pretty straightforward to get at it. We have mounted up the PDM and the Arduino box is now all mounted neatly to the tunnel, and it's all hidden behind and under the dash. However, we can access all the programming ports on it quite easily, and the same on the side there for the Arduino to get it if we need to plug a laptop into it during a rally. All things considered, we've tested all this wiring, so there shouldn't really be too much of a need to do any of that, but we never know. There's still a couple of bits and pieces to do to connect up. That's CAN bus wiring there. We've still got dash wiring to finish off. We're waiting on some bits to come in for the dash so we can get that sorted out. However, we've pretty much got 95% of it done now, so there's enough there to get the engine running and get it all started when we get to that point. The other thing that we have also done as well is on the left hand side here we have got a relay and fuse box mounted in here. Now this relay box drives things like spotlights, intercooler water sprayer, and a few other bits and pieces like that. Everything that's not mission critical to the system. Anything that is a critical circuit is all running through the PDM, so that's not a drama, and these just control some of the auxiliaries. And between this fuse box here and the PDM here, that is it. There is no other fuses or whatever running anywhere in the car. So we know exactly where to locate things, and we know that the wiring pretty much only runs between here and the fuse box. So it makes it quite easy to narrow down problems with electrics, should we have any. Not that we should with any luck. With the lost footage, I'm not sure whether we filmed this last time or not. Anyway, so behind the scenes we have got this bracket done, 3D printed, and the idea of this bracket is these will be buttons, so instead of having normal stalks for wipers and lights and things like that, instead they'll be on press buttons, which will all be hooked into our Arduino and our CAN bus system. So we have got the air intake pretty much planned out and sorted out now. There's still a few bits and pieces to do just to make this spot on, but it's looking good. So this is a mandrel bent aluminium tube from Aeroflow. There's a few different suppliers out there. We use Aeroflow a lot. So that's sorted out now. We've trimmed that to the right shape for our pod filter. We've also made this aluminium bracket here, this plate, which is supporting the air filter, or supporting the intake tube. This is just our design in the way that we do things. We only use a short plate. There's a whole bunch of reasons why we do it that way. We've talked about this before in air filters on the channel, and how this all goes together and why. Basically, this is kind of the factory position where the air filter sits, or where the intake is taken from the factory air filter in the car, and it basically picks up cool air that's rushing in through from behind the headlight. We'll also have a wrap or a sock over this as well, which will keep out, it acts as a pre-cleaner. It keeps out water, and it helps to keep out dust as well. We find that with the wraps over the air filters, they don't suffer anywhere near as much with dust clogging them up, and we get no water in there, which keeps the intakes dry and clean. Other updates on the build, obviously the dash is going in at the moment. We have got all of the mud flaps done on the car now as well, so it's a small thing, again quite time consuming, however it's another item ticked off the list. And underneath we have got the sump guard sorted out under the car as well, so that is another item ticked off the list. Another hour or so of fettling things in there, and the dash is kind of in. We're still making up the last of the brackets there to hold the joins together. We need to get a bit more support in there. It's starting to come together and look pretty good. Predictably, with all these bits and pieces, we're supposed to have all the correct bolts and nuts and clips and everything, and they're not where they're supposed to be, or they're missing, or something's happened to them. That's nothing unusual. Remembering that we didn't have this bonnet originally, we had an Impreza bonnet which didn't have these grills and the scoop in it. We had to find the scoop from somewhere else. We got the bonnet second hand, and some of the clips and some of the little threads underneath that retain all this are all missing. Luckily, I had a couple of other vents. It was one of a different car, wasn't a Impreza, that had a couple of the threads and clips to hold this down properly. So a question that comes up quite regularly is why we don't put a bigger bonnet scoop on to allow more air into the intercooler. And here in Western Australia, there is a company that does make a larger intercooler scoop, an aftermarket one. It's basically kind of an adaptation of the Spec C, the GD intercooler scoop, which is taller and larger. And what that company has done is they've made that to fit into the GC bonnet and moulded it in. It's a fiberglass copy. And they do look cool, and they do allow more air into the intercooler. However, under the current rules, we're not allowed to fit those, so you have to run the factory scoop on this. And it doesn't matter whether it's STI or WRX or Type RA or whatever, all the scoops on these bonnets are all the same. Same with the vents as well. These are the best designed vents for the car. However, there are on the driver's side scoops, or somebody has made an aftermarket scoop that funnels more air into, supposedly get it into the air filter. However, again, we're not allowed to use those. We must retain the factory fittings. Something that comes up in the discussion very often, both online and offline, is about fitting a different intercooler to these GCs. The GDs have a larger intercooler, why not use that? And I was just talking about the bonnet scoop, or using a front mount intercooler or whatever. It is something I have talked about on this channel before, and it's basically to do with the rules. They don't allow it. You've got to retain the factory intercooler, and it's got to be retained in the factory position. Now, we are allowed to put a thicker intercooler in it, and a couple of cars that we have built have had aftermarket intercoolers that are slightly thicker in the intercooler itself. However, the surface area, so this area here, is fixed by the manufacturer, what they made for the car, and so therefore you're not able to put a larger one on it. And that means also using a GD intercooler or a GD STI intercooler, which is not much larger, but it is larger. And in tests on the dyno and things like that, they have found that the GD intercooler does help the engine produce more power. So simply, the reason the intercooler has to stay as it is as factory is to do with the power of the car and all that sort of stuff. And our rules mean we must keep it. Beautiful. Let's give it a tiny bit of throttle going. So in the last few days, we've been pretty busy getting this car sorted out. So one of the things that we've had done is the exhaust put on the car now. We already had the 3-inch dump pipe on here, and we got our exhaust guys to put on the rear section to a hot dog at the back. We've made up the slip joint here with the springs. We use these rather than a flex joint or a bellows. These are much more reliable, give us a lot less drama. So we've sorted that out. So as you can probably hear in the background, we've got the car ready to go on the dyno. So a little bit of tuning and it should be ready to go for testing. Fingers crossed. It was probably only a couple of weeks ago when we put out a episode of the update of the Liberty B4 build that somebody was asking, what's going on with the Orange GC? Well, now you know. We hadn't forgotten about it. We have been incredibly busy. We have been working on this car. It's been a lot of weekends and late nights and well, basically every time we could get, public holidays and things like that, trying to get this thing done. And it's now probably about 85% there. Certainly enough, obviously, to get it on the dyno and to get some other bits and pieces done on it. And it's ready to be tested. So we're going to go and take it for a run and make sure that it does everything that it's supposed to do. And then we'll get stuck into getting all the last bits and pieces, the finer details done, so it is ready for the rally. So I think we've probably got at least one more episode, if not two, on this. And we will also take you on the adventure with us when we take this car to South Australia. Anyway, I hope you've enjoyed the progress update on the Forest Weapon build. Please like, give us a thumbs up. It's important for the YouTube algorithm. And subscribe. And we'll catch you again soon. Cheers.